All right, hello everybody. Welcome to chapter 9. And this chapter is all about the Pythagorean theorem. So one theorem to rule them all. Just getting one rule for one chapter. So it's really nice. Before we get into that chapter though, or that rule, we're going to go ahead and look at some just basic algebra here. So our first one is going to be looking at x squared, which is x times x. So 3 squared, that means 3 times 3, which is going to take us to 9. 11 squared, 11 times 11, 121. And we could do that with decimals too. 8.5 squared would be 8.5 times 8.5. Takes us to 72.25. To type squaring on the calculator, we go ahead and can type in our number, and then the squaring key is over here, so 9 squared. Or we could always do 9 times 9, or you can do 9 to the second power. Those are all 3 different ways to do squaring. And then the opposite of squaring is the square root. So here we have x squared equals 25. So we're asking what number multiplied by itself equals 25. Well, 5 times 5 I know is 25. But if you can't think about that in your head, what you can do is go ahead and take the square root of both sides. So the square root of x squared, or sorry, the square root of x squared takes us to x, and the square root of 25 would be 5. And so we end up with x equals 5. So to do the square root on the calculator here, we hit second, and then right above the x squared key, you see the square root symbol. So hit the square symbol, and then we type in our number, so the square root of 25. Or we could do like the square root of 81. So we're asking what multiplied by what gives us 81. That's 9. 9 times 9. So that's squaring and the square root. So we're going to go ahead and look at the Pythagorean theorem. And this is useful to find the legs of the hypotenuse. And it's only looking at right triangles. So whenever we have right triangles, what we can do is we can take the two small sides, the two legs of the right triangle, so the two small sides, and what we're going to do is we're going to take those sides and square them, and we're going to get the hypotenuse. So it's a squared plus b squared equals c squared. And so down here, I can go ahead and look at a right triangle. 6, 8, and x. The hypotenuse I know is always opposite the right angle. So here's the right angle. So here's the hypotenuse, x. So what we do is we take these two small legs, the 6 and the 8. What we're going to do is square them, add them together. So 6 squared plus 8 squared. And that's going to equal our hypotenuse squared, x squared. So we take 6 squared, that's 6 times 6, 36. 8 squared, that's 8 times 8, 64. We're going to add those two together, and we end up with 100. So now we ask what squared equals 100. And if we don't know that, we could put it in our calculator. But I do know 10 times 10 equals 100. And so therefore, x is 10. And so that's it. The hypotenuse on this problem is 10. And we have completed our first problem. So I'll go ahead and let the teacher pause the video here. Let everybody write down that first example. And then we'll go ahead and get ready for our second example. Inside of our second example, we're going to be looking at another right triangle that has a right angle here. So the two legs are 5 and 14.7. So what we're going to do is take and plug these into our a squared plus b squared equals c squared formula. So our first leg is 5. Our second leg is 14.7. So we take 5 squared and 14.7 squared. We add those two together to get 241.09 equals x squared. And what we need to do is take the square root of that number. So the square root of 241.09 will be our answer. So I go inside my calculator, I hit second square for square root. 241.09. And I get 15.527, and they rounded that to 15.53. So that's our first part. Teacher, please pause that there so they are able to write down those notes, and I'll continue this video on part 2 for the word problem.